everybody. I'm from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after Game 4, Round 2, Jets, Dallas Stars, a 3-1 Stars victory. And I'm going to tell you something. There was, I would call it ominous. I believe it's also referred to as foreboding. I forget what the literary term is where you build it into your writing to, warn people that something dark is coming down the road. Foreshadowing. After Game 1, a game in which I thought the Jets were the better team against the Dallas Stars, but the Dallas Stars came out with a victory. Scott Arniel was very, very open in his post-game breakdown about the fact that he was pretty upset that his team, he thought they gave away home ice advantage. I thought at the time it was so kind of raw and honest. I was almost a little bit blown away by it. A lot of times coaches will kind of try and downplay things, but he seemed to be extremely open about the fact that he was worried about what they did. And I guess this is what we're seeing right now in this situation. Jets now still have yet to win on the road in these playoffs, and they're out of gimmies at this stage. They're going to need to win the next one here in Dallas, and that's if they get back to Dallas. But you can understand why there was a feeling with the Jets and with Scott Arniel and his coaching staff that they'd let one slip away. And this isn't the kind of series where you can let one slip away, because here's the deal. I've talked about the Jets this season and the amount of times that they've played games and not come away with the victory. It's happened very, very few times. And I can't really think of too many games during the regular season that it happened. I know I've brought some to mind in the past. I don't feel like I have the mental capacity to do it now. All I can tell you is there's 2 games now in this series that I think the Winnipeg Jets were the better team, that they've come away with the loss. And you have to get into explaining how that happens. You don't need to pull out the protractor on this one, folks. You don't need, quantum physics to figure this out. This is a Jake Oettinger, and I won't say stolen game, because there's saves that Connor Hellebuyck made. There was a 3-on-1 late where they generated a chance right in the slot that Connor Hellebuyck makes. I believe it's a blocker save that heads up into the netting. So there's some saves that Connor Hellebuyck makes in this game that match things. So I don't look at this and think that Oettinger stole this. And if Kyle Connor scores on, that pass in front of the net that gets stopped by Ottinger's pad, or if Kyle Connor scores on the breakaway, that this is a Winnipeg Jets victory. Someone put up the old deserve to win meter, and it had the Jets at 57% and the Dallas Stars at 43%. But the thing about this Dallas Stars team, they're confident, they are composed, they handle things well. To me, the biggest sin of the Winnipeg Jets in this series so far is playing so much of it from behind. And I think the one thing that we've seen from the Jets in how comfortable they got throughout the regular season, how comfortable they got in the first round of the playoffs, Game 1. Come from behind victory. They win that game. Game 2, Game 2, they're never trailing. And I believe they're trailing in Game 5. I believe the Blues score. They come back in that game. And then, of course, miracle comeback. So you're talking about 3 of their 4 wins in the first round are games in which the Jets play from behind. And what do they say? We just do the right things over and over and over again. We don't break from our structure. And then, we just, whatever happens, right? Well, what happens against the Dallas Stars is they're really, really hard to come back against. And they're really, really hard to generate. I thought the Jets were the better team clearly in the first period, although, the scoreboard doesn't end up indicating that. I thought they were the better team for the vast majority of the second period. I don't know that they were the better team in the third period. I don't think that they were. I think the Dallas Stars, who were leading, took over that game. And so if you're the Winnipeg Jets, who are used to building and just slowly bowling over teams like they did against the St. Louis Blues in Game 7, by the end of that game, the Jets had left no doubt who the better team was in that game. You're not going to do that against the Dallas Stars. They're too good. They're just too good of a team to allow you to just roll on them over and over and over again. They're too composed. They absorb your pressure too well. They handle themselves in tight spots too good. Their goaltender is too composed. The real sin of this game is that the Jets have opportunities in the first period and come out and own the first period and are not able to capitalize on that. And because of it, they end up playing from behind. And yes, they score to tie this game up. What is that? The third time they've done that in this series. Give the Winnipeg Jets credit. They are doing that. But what's not happening, that happened to so many other teams, and most definitely happened with the Blues, is when they scored to come back on that team got tighter. That team thought, oh no, here they come. You always hear me talk about the giant boulder that starts rolling, and teams feel that pressure and they crumble under that pressure. The Dallas Stars aren't going to crumble. And if that's what you're waiting for, you're going to wait for that on your way out of the playoffs. The Jets cannot be putting themselves into a position where they are consistently playing from behind in this series. What it's meant is that a very, I don't want to say fortuitous, but a team that can capitalize and can pounce when they need to, like the Dallas Stars, they're going to get those moments. If you leave yourself too tight in that game, they'll grab them. Now you're playing from behind, and you just don't get to roll on this team. I will end on this before Ken comes in. If you're looking for hope in this series, I've always said it like this. When you are the team that goes down 3-1, and you are the team that has had home ice advantage, you are the home ice winner in that series, or the higher seed is probably the more accurate way of saying that. I always think this next game coming up, Game 5, all the pressure is on the Winnipeg Jets, clearly. But I think if you can win that game, I think the pressure shifts. Why? Well, think about what it's going to look like and what that building will be like if the Winnipeg Jets can pull off a victory in Game 5. That barn will be going banana lands. And then that's what you are left with. As you leave the ice, as the Dallas Stars, you leave the ice, leaving an absolute zoo after the Winnipeg Jets win the game to make this a 3-2 series. Now you go back, and now I believe the pressure switches to the Dallas Stars. Why? Yes, the Jets haven't won at home, but knowing that, the Dallas Stars know they don't want to go back to Winnipeg because it's banana lands, and they've now lost 2 out of 3 games there. It starts to feel a little bit tighter, because if you're going to lock up this series, your best chance to do is on home ice. And now there's a little bit more pressure there than, sometimes teams can handle. So the Winnipeg Jets go out, win Game 5. I personally believe the pressure shifts to the Dallas Stars in Game 6. If they don't handle that pressure well, the Winnipeg Jets come out with a win. You're heading back to the whiteout. You've got all the momentum in the series. You've got the Stars questioning themselves. Is it likely that the Winnipeg Jets are going to win this series? Let's be honest, folks. No, it's not likely. But I always say that. Win Game 5, and interesting things can happen, especially for a team that's already pulled off one miracle in these playoffs. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take on the whole thing. Here comes Kenny, folks.
What
As always, Kenny, you come rolling in here looking like a gentleman and a scholar. You do not, though, look like a Southern gentleman, the way that the boys down at Vittorio Rossi have me looking. Love being able to pull this one out. And I'll tell you, it needs to be the right material because it was a record-breaking heat day here, like it was back at home. Usually it doesn't hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Dallas until July 1st is the average day that happens. And that happened here today. It was hot. It was sweaty. Although if you're done upright, the boys at Vittorio Rossi do you upright and you want to look like a Southern gentleman who handles that heat, you head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you upright. Ken, take it away. Down 3-1. What'd you see in Game 4?
Yeah, interesting tilt. If you're the Jets, there is a lot to like, as you touched on at the beginning, but the fact that resulted in nothing is going to put them into a little bit of a precarious predicament here, Sean, right? Because now when your best suddenly wasn't good enough on the score sheet, it can cause a bit of a push and pull. You have the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, and you're kind of like those two are jarring at one another here. But I mean, as simple as you can put it is, if the Jets play that type of game on Thursday, they should put themselves in position to find a way to win. Except now you're making a bunch of assumptions that maybe the Stars aren't going to elevate their game. Like, let's be honest here. The Jets were creating a lot more than they have in the series, 72 shot attempts to 45. So they did a great job of generating to a degree. But Sean, all the generating in the world, it's helpful in terms of process and everything else. But at this time of the year, if you don't convert those chances, it's hard to feel good about that, right, Sean, in a lot of ways. So they do feel good about what they were able to generate, but now you're also getting to the situation where, again, I don't think for a second that Jake Oettinger is in the head of the Winnipeg Jets. Jake Oettinger is playing great. He's been the best goalie in the series. That is evident. But I don't think the Jets are going home and thinking, oh man, we're going to be squeezing our sticks now. We can't score an Oettinger. He's out of his mind here. I mean, Ottinger's playing very solid. He's making timely saves. He's making, the routine saves. He's making difficult saves look routine. I mean, the Jets should recognize that. That's something that they have flourished with for the majority of the season here, from Connor Hellebuyck and even Eric Comrie putting together a very good season as a backup. But right now, the Jets don't have enough players producing. I mean, these are the facts. The facts are that Dallas got secondary scoring that was not apparent in games 1 and 2 when they were being carried primarily by Mikko Rantanen. And the Jets, both big guns and meat and potatoes guys, are getting outscored in the last 2 games. And, one of the players they are outscored by is Mikael Granlund, who was someone that was picked up before the trade deadline in a very astute maneuver from Jim Nill. That was along with Cody Ceci for a team that had to upgrade their blue line and wanted to upgrade a forward. They got 2 players from a San Jose Sharks team to set the table. Then they made a blockbuster at the deadline. So I'm not looking for revisionist history. And yes, I've got a few notes for people saying, see, I told you, Jets should have got Granlund. Granlund played great today. Granlund played very solid in Game 3. Granlund was almost invisible in Games 1 and 2. But in the last 2 games, he's played darn great at a time when Vladislav Namestnikov has yet to check in with a point in this series. So, yes, I get it. Right now, Granlund is outperforming Namestnikov, and if the Jets want to keep their season alive, guys like Namestnikov are going to need to start sort of evening the ledger. So, that's also a reality. It's not I didn't see a ton of people saying the Jets whiffed when they didn't get Granlund. Some people did, and I get it. And those people have their receipts, and good for them. He's someone that, Sean, you and I discussed. And, at the end of it, we were kind of like, well, is it a massive upgrade? And at the time, I don't think we thought it was. But right now, Mikael Granlund is having himself a whale of a series, especially in the last 2 games. So, he deserves credit for that. And he is getting credit for that right now. the Jets are not playing without Cole Perfetti, Sean. Without Cole Perfetti scoring 2 goals in Game 7, the Jets are not playing. We're not talking about the Dallas Stars. We're talking about the St. Louis Blues and the Dallas Stars. But right now, even though Cole Perfetti, I think, is playing incredibly hard and is generating at times, Cole Perfetti has 0 points in this series. So secondary scoring has not been at the requisite level. Nino Niederreiter's got himself 4 goals in the last 7 games. But Nino Niederreiter is a veteran guy, Sean, and he had a puck that rolled off his stick and ended up in the back of the net. I mean, mistakes happen to everybody. We get it, and I'm not here pointing a finger. But that is, in terms of puck management, that is a mistake that cannot be made, Sean. In this situation where mistakes are, they're not plentiful because of how good both teams are structurally, not getting the puck deep at the offensive blue line and having it go into the stick of the player who is the hottest player in the Stanley Cup playoffs can be costly. And today it was costly. But at the same time, as Scott O'Neill pointed out, Sean, you were there. We can talk about whatever we want. We can talk about Granlund beating Connor Hellebuyck with a wrist shot from the top of the circle that he should have stopped. But the Jets scored 1 goal, and that's not enough in the Stanley Cup playoffs, even though the Jets generated 72 shot attempts. And, let's see what the high dangers finished up on here. Today is the 13th. High danger chances are 7-3 for the Jets at 5-on-5. So yeah, they generated enough that should have allowed them to score. But guess, as I like to say, expected goals, I prefer real goals to expected goals. Expected goals are important, and it's a nice stat to know, but they do not equate to actual goals. And right now, the Jets are not getting enough actual goals. I just don't think there's anywhere else to put that. Part of that, Sean, and we'll dig into it a little bit further, the Jets are 1-for-16 on the power play. Today, the Jets gave up 2 power play goals. So those are facts. And if the Jets want to keep their season alive, they will need to upgrade A, the penalty kill, B, the power play, C, again, Hellebuyck was okay in this game. He was better than okay. Made some important saves. One on Wyatt Johnson, one on Rope Hintz, a couple really good tips. But they'll need better goaltending if they want to keep playing. This is also reality for the Jets, and they have a goaltender that has the ability to do that. And now it's incumbent on Connor Hellebuyck. And again, don't worry about Milan. Milan's a long ways away. I've seen, people saying whatever they want. And right now, Jake Oettinger has been the best goalie in the series. And if the Jets want to come back and rally and win the series, Connor Hellebuyck is going to need to outplay Jake Oettinger in the next 3 games. That's also true. Mark Scheifele is going to need to outplay Rope Hintz. Adam Lowry's line is going to have to do its best to shut down the Mikko Rantanen line, whether he's playing with Hintz or with Wyatt Johnston. Right now, they need more answers. They need solutions. No excuses for the Jets. Yes, they're banged up from the first round. Yes, they're playing hard. Yes, they played fine in game 1 and could have won if special teams were better. And today, they played well in a lot of aspects and maybe could have evened it 2-2. They didn't. So they need to improve in a number of areas. And as you mentioned, right out of the gate, Sean, guess what? Even though you might play your best game, but you are leaving a lot to chance when you must win 3 games in a row against a team that is as battle-tested as the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars had a very disappointing loss. You were there, to the Edmonton Oilers, to the point where even after the series was over, the Dallas Stars could not believe that Stuart Skinner outplayed Jake Oettinger and that they had been eliminated from the playoffs. But they've upgraded their roster. They've learned from their lessons. They've talked about all the calluses that Scott O'Neill has talked about and the scar tissue. And now they've put themselves within 1 win of advancing to the Western Conference Final. But the Jets have put together plenty of 3-game winning streaks over the course of this historic season for them. And now they need, put it however you want, whether it's 3 1-game winning streaks or a 1 3-game winning streak. That's the only way the Jets don't lose their last game, as Scott O'Neill said at the podium today. And it's very simple. No room for error. Play your best, leave it all out there, and let the chips fall where they may. I don't get the sense, Sean, that the Jets are ready to go home, even though I did see, like you, I saw a lot of frustration, and understandably so, a lot of disappointment from Connor
Okay.
Hellebuyck and Nick
Don't
White
get too deep
in their
into that. We're gonna that's got to be a whole topic on its own. Okay, so I'm going to cut you off there. And before we do move on, I wanted to say this: LB says Dallas made their mistakes too, but their goalie saved them. The one thing that I think is probably pretty tricky about this, I was sitting watching the game with Ian McIntyre, our Sportsnet writer out of Vancouver, and with Mikey McIntyre, and talking to Mike, like Dallas looked really casual in this game and was making a lot of, like, how many times did you see their players fall, untouched in the middle of the ice? How many times did you see them mishandle the puck? Like, I thought there was a real opportunity here in that the Stars almost didn't seem to come out ready in this game. It's the one way of saying, as tough as this is, the Jets being down in a 3-1 hole, I don't think we've seen the Dallas Stars at their best in any of the games in this series. I think we saw Mikko Rantanen at his best in game one, and I think you're seeing parts of what they look like when they get to their best. I think you saw that in the third period of the last game. I think this third period is kind of getting close to that, but I don't think the Dallas Stars have come anywhere close to playing a full season in this series, which just shows how hard of a team they are to kind of deal with in this situation. But let's go to where you were going right before this. Actually, yeah, we'll go to that. We'll go back in his post game. Now, Ken, wondering, and I'm thinking it must have happened somewhere along the lines, maybe back in as far back as 2016, 2017 season when he broke into the league for the first time, Connor Hellebuyck. But I don't remember ever talking to Connor Hellebuyck after a loss, after a loss. So it's hard to have contrast what we saw from him tonight with any other loss he's been through. Maybe this is just what he's like after losses, but Connor Hellebuyck came out and spoke to the media. It's no, folks at home, it's not common for him to come out and to speak after a loss. Usually in the playoffs, when things are going in this direction, because we've seen things go in this direction before, we don't talk to him until garbage bag day or exit interviews. He was really raw, really emotional. And I wondered what you took away from that, Ken. The kind of raw emotion that he showed, that to me seemed to show an extremely vulnerable goaltender.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I understand why you're going that way, but to me, I didn't mind it. I thought he was being honest. I think there was obvious disappointment in the first goal. Yes, he said, multiple times he needs to review it, and he said perfect shot, and you could see the frustration. I think that's a guy that just. I would much rather hear Connor say, that essentially he didn't come out and say it, but he was disappointed that he didn't have it. I mean, it's one of those that he was shocked. We've seen this in practice all the time. Vintage Hellebuyck, he doesn't get scored on often, first and foremost in practice, but this is one where he literally looks at his glove and leaves his glove there, and he's shocked that the puck is not in it. This is one of those plays to me, the Granlund shot. And again, this is one that he's got to have. The more I looked at it, I'm incredibly impressed by Granlund's ability. Sean, we talk about this all the time with Kyle Connor and his release. And yes, there's some things, and maybe, the fault, because the follow through didn't happen because it hits Pionk's, his stick hits the stick, not the puck. But the fact that Granlund changes the angle to get the puck past Pionk, I think fooled Hellebuyck a little bit, to be honest. And, he said it was perfectly above the pad and below the glove. And I didn't mind it. I didn't mind Hellebuyck. I think there have been times where he's shown a little bit more of a human side. Rather, he can be a bit robotic in scrums. I've found at times, and that's okay. And we've talked about his power of positivity, scenario, and that how he's based on the book and everything else that kind of got him to where he is. I prefer Connor Hellebuyck the way that he said today, rather than saying I liked my details and I liked my game, and I'm fine with it. I didn't see vulnerability. I saw, I saw human emotion. The rawness was definitely there. I didn't see a guy that was defeated, is how I'm going to put it. I'm not saying those are not the words that came out of your mouth either, but I actually think that Connor handled himself just fine, and I think that he's going to be incredibly determined to have his best game of the entire season. on Thursday night. But I mean, again, I'm with you. I mean, I understand we're not used to seeing him, maybe be as open as he was today. But I also saw a guy that still was having some confidence, but it wasn't false. I'd rather see him in that regard than have false bravado. And I understand some people don't feel that way, but I totally was fine with what he said. And at the end of the day, when you followed up with him, he was like, "Well, no, I mean it's heartache because every loss is heartbreaking to me. It wasn't that this is a new level of heartbreak and oh my God, we can't come back from this." But I did think he was much more raw than we have seen at times, for sure.
Sorry, I'm just going to handle this quickly because I'm seeing it now. Danny D says Jets have had scars since 2018, unlike other playoff teams. How come they have not learned their lesson? The Dallas Stars have been to the conference finals how many times in a row? I mean, you're playing
2
a
or
team
3, yep.
that is like filled with scars and lost the Stanley Cup final not too long ago. And the Edmonton Oilers have had crash outs in the playoffs before this. And the Florida Panthers, everything went wrong with them before it finally went right for them. They won a Press Trophy and got, kicked out in the second round when things didn't go their way. The Tampa Bay Lightning, this is not the Jets. Listen, some teams get to have the story that they learn from those scars and then they make it to the top of the mountain. And then there's a whole bunch of other teams who just get the scars and they don't get the trophy at the end of it, right? Danny, you're suggesting that the Jets are different than anyone else. They're exactly like everybody other than the ones that find their way over the hump. And the Edmonton Oilers haven't yet. The Dallas Stars haven't done it yet. God, want to talk about stars and playoff heartbreak. The Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe right now, Ken, are they the team that has the lowest of making the playoffs out of the entire league right now? I think they are. I mean, you want to talk about the heartbreak that team has, the Vegas Golden Knights, how many times their hearts were broken before they finally did it, the Colorado Avalanche. So I'm going to give this the hot take, and not the wise, insightful type of hot take, but this is the Flame and Comfort K&R hot take, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort is soon moving. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside. Visit Flame and Comfort. They'll take care of it for you. Okay, back to Connor. I just wanted to go for his game. First shot, I know he called the perfect shot. I believe post-game, Scott Arniel had said that's a shot that he would want back. I think that if Connor Hellebuyck is being fully honest with himself in that moment, and this is what I think we're seeing in real time with Connor Hellebuyck, a goaltender, to your point, that's actually allowing himself to feel the human emotions that are involved with this. And part of that is he's trying to get there, maybe not quite at the point where he can say, well, perfect shot, or I should have had that one. My bad. My team needs me to be better in that situation, right? I don't know that we've heard that before from Connor Hellebuyck. I think it could be helpful. I do think it was raw. It was emotional. I do think Connor Hellebuyck has a little bit of a kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say that the word's not punch drunk, but it's almost like, remember when he described them losing in 2018 as the unthinkable? Like, it feels to me like he's looking and he's like, the unthinkable is happening again. And I wonder if for Connor Hellebuyck, it's unthinkable to lose, for a team to beat you, because for so many years he's locked his mind in this box that's worked for him brilliantly in the regular season, where I liked my game. Oh, I gave up 7 goals. I liked my game. I think my details are right. We've heard those comments so many times before. And what I see there is a goaltender who believes he needs to believe in a reality in his head that keeps his confidence high, and that's how he's going to handle it. So the unthinkable to him, it's unthinkable because he doesn't think in his head that anything is going wrong. He's always liking his details. Everything is going to turn out fine, right? I think what we're seeing from Connor Hellebuyck is a Connor Hellebuyck who maybe for the first time is allowing himself, and I'm sure he's done it before, definitely hasn't done it in front of us out in the open, but a Connor Hellebuyck who's allowing himself to run through the emotions of disappointment and failure and questioning, what am I doing wrong? And what should I be doing in this scenario? It sounded like he came very close to doing that as he like out loud played that over. I know he called it the perfect shot, but to your point, Ken, I don't think he specifically said it, but I got the sense that he landed on saying, Agreed. I should have had that one. Right now, it's strange to say I should have had that one. It was the perfect shot. I still think the push and the pull of Connor Hellebuyck's mind and how he's become one of the greatest goaltenders in the world by living in this box where he's, thinks nothing but pure thoughts and all of these kind of things. I think personally that by like going through the process of the torture of failure and being allowed to say to yourself, I should be better. I should have got that one. I think I let my team down in that situation is a path to getting stronger. And to your point, I don't know if it happens that fast, Ken. I don't know if it turns around and he has like the best game we've ever seen him have in the playoffs in the next game. Maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe he goes on a crazy string. Maybe he wins the next 3 and does what Jake Oettinger did tonight. But I guess to my point that I made years ago about, when Laurent Brossoit was there, I thought Laurent Brossoit should have been in that series. I thought they should have pulled Connor Hellebuyck, and maybe part of pulling Connor Hellebuyck would be him having to feel those emotions. I think the Jets have tried to avoid Connor Hellebuyck feeling those emotions and just trying to prop him up always in this world where he's got this, I can do no wrong and I like my details. And how many times does Connor Hellebuyck say that they just got some bounces? He said that about the St. Louis Blues.
Yep.
Who ran him out of the rink 3 times, and he said they got some lucky bounces. Newsflash, it wasn't lucky bounces. They beat you over and over and over again. They deserve the credit for what they did there. And hiding from that, I don't think helps anybody. And I don't think it helped his performance in that series. And I think that this is not just on Connor Hellebuyck, maybe the Jets as an organization. I think that they've tried to prop up Connor Hellebuyck because they know he's a special player and maybe an all-time goaltender. And so the thought process has been just let him continue thinking he's perfect. And in doing that, we can't pull him, because no one who's perfect gets pulled and gets backup started in that game. And I just think that this is a process that I do think it's late in his career. He's 32 years old, or he's about to be 32 years old. It's late in his career, but I think it's okay for Connor Hellebuyck to go through this. I think it's okay for him to feel the emotions, the disappointment, the failure, that maybe I'm the second best goalie in this series. And maybe I need to feel the pain of that and the acknowledgement of that in order to say, okay, I accept that I was. Now, how do I get there? Rather than saying what we heard from him in the playoffs last year, I liked my game. I liked the details. I'm not sure there was anything more I could do on the way to being bested by Georgiev in that series last year. So this is, to me, an organizational thing. It's okay to feel this right now. Does it mean that they're going to win, that this path to them winning this series? I don't think so. But I do think that it's a path to Connor Hellebuyck becoming a stronger goaltender mentally down the stretch. And I do think it's a path that he and the Winnipeg Jets should have traveled a long, long, long time ago. And maybe we're seeing different results in the pressure cooker of the playoffs from Connor Hellebuyck than we've been seeing.
Sounds like a Pristine Roofing wake-up call in some regards, no? Well, a little bit?
Let's give, it's a late breaking Pristine Roofing wake-up call, because like I said, this is something I think should have happened a long time ago. And again, it's the, Eric Comrie starting in game 5 or whatever it was that I suggest. He's kind of, this is why I say these things. I know people get crazy and uptight, but these are the things I think that are the process that teams can go to wake up their goaltender. And you know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give Pristine, or give your home the Pristine Roofing and Siding wake-up call, like so many people in our show have, and we thank you for that. You will be happy you did, like those folks who've reached out to me. Ken, let's get to the line blending. What did you take away from that? What was Scott Arniel trying to do with it? And do you think it worked?
Yeah, a couple things, and I know this was debated on the panel, much to the chagrin. Blake Wheeler didn't particularly care for it, but I mean, the reason why Alex Iafallo was on that line is because it's been giving up too much and not generating enough. And with Pete DeBoer wanting to play Rope Hintz or Wyatt Johnston with Mikko Rantanen against Mark Scheifele, having someone as defensively responsible as Alex Iafallo is a smart move. Alex Iafallo is a guy who's disruptive on the forecheck, Sean. What is something we've talked about after all 4 games of this series, outside of game 2, when the Jets had a shutout? The Jets' forecheck has not been as disruptive as we're used to seeing it. So they put a guy who's a better skater and a better forechecker onto the top line. And I also think this was about trying to get Gabe Vilardi going also. It wasn't just saying it was not a blame Vilardi scenario. It was Vilardi having, the success with Ehlers a couple of years ago. So they tried him with Lowry and Ehlers. I thought it was a smart move. I thought, yes, Ehlers' goal comes at the end of the power play that just expired. So that's not really that line cooking. It was still the power play out there essentially. But I liked what I saw from that line. Now, Sean, one thing I would have maybe preferred, I don't think is the right word, but right now, Vladislav Namestnikov is not generating the same type of offense as he had in the last series. So I actually think that a promotion for Morgan Barron might have made sense for that line. Niederreiter, Barron, and Perfetti. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of that, but at the same time, the Jets had a 3-on-1 with tough play. I know some people saying, Appleton should have had it. I mean, I think with the benefit of hindsight, and if folks go back and look at the replay, I mean, Morgan Barron's having a great playoff. That pass was a little bit too crispy, and it was in his feet. It was not, executed at the level that I think he would prefer it to have been at. But again, I think right now, and I've said this all along, Sean, I know Namestnikov and Niederreiter have some chemistry playing together as well, so I understand why they went with that way. But I think one thing that I would consider if I was Scott Arniel, and again, he's not going to go full blender in the next game also, but a minor tweak I would consider going that way and then going Namestnikov on the 4th line with Tanev and Appleton. Otherwise, I thought the lines were fine. I thought Vilardi was involved in the game. Let's just check and see what the numbers say about that. 2 shots, 4 shot attempts. Was it perfect? No, but I mean, the Jets had 72 shot attempts and they had, 7 high danger chances at 5-on-5. Sean, if the power play is not in a funk, we're not having this discussion about secondary scoring. I think that we're having a discussion about the Jets being probably a 2-2 in the series, and it's two really good teams, hitting each other over the head and seeing who has the counter punch. But right now, Jets special teams are getting outplayed. Mikko Rantanen has gone on an all-time binge here, and even in a game when he is not as prominent or prevalent, he's still involved in important goals. So right now, the Jets need a little bit more primary scoring. I mean, Kyle Connor, he had 2 of the best chances in the game, Sean. The 2 Oettinger saves, one of the pass from Iafallo that goes off the left pad is a 10-bell save, and the shorthanded breakaway is not as 10-bell, but he forced him to not be able to get it over the pad. And yes, I do think there was a slash that was missed on Heiskanen, but in real time, I didn't detect it. So all the people saying, well, look at the replay. Well, guess what? The ref doesn't get to see the replay. So I understand that there's some disappointment there, but the Jets, Kyle Connor's got to bury that but he tried to. This is not a blame game again. Kyle Connor had the best 2 chances for the Jets in this game. He was stoned on both of them. Kyle Connor is the most prolific goal scorer in that lineup. So if Kyle Connor doesn't score there, someone else has to. Beauty of hockey. Even if your best players aren't converting on chances they often convert on, the job of the guy beside you in the room is to try and pick you up by, getting a greasy one or doing whatever. So right now the Jets aren't getting enough of that, Sean. That's what I saw from home. I mean, do you see it differently having been in the building in the last couple games? I mean, one more thing when I'm talking about high-end stars, Mark Scheifele has not scored a road playoff goal since 2019 Game 4 against the St. Louis Blues. Yes, we know there have been injuries. We know there has been some other things that have disrupted his playoff rhythm, but that's a wild amount of time for a literally top 20 NHL player to go without scoring away from home. And we know he gets attention. He gets attention at home and on the road. And we know that he's coming back from a tough injury, which was probably a concussion, even though no one wants to talk about it and may not even when the season's over. Again, I see effort from all these guys, but Sean, effort is impressive, but the results have to be there in a series that is as tightly contested as this one.
Clearly in my mind, a big part of this is the fact that, when they're on home ice, Adam Lowry can be used as a giant eraser that also goes out and builds a little bit of momentum, frustrates the offensive guys on the other side, so that when they do get out on the ice against Mark Scheifele's line, they're a little bit more trying to take chances, if you know what I mean. They're thinking, okay, we're away from the defensive wet blanket, so we can take a little bit more chances, and then Scheifele's line can counter that. It's another way of saying Adam Lowry's line really sets the table on home ice for the Winnipeg Jets. So I think that explains a little something about where the scoring has gone on the road for Mark Scheifele. But listen, you were all here. You were in the chat room. A lot of you were mocking the Dallas Stars after Game 2, where you were saying, now that we figured out how to shut down Rantanen and no one else on this team is scoring, we're going to win 3 straight games in this series, right? I get it. That's how fans talk. When I see fans talk like that, I'm always like, do you really want to tempt fate? Because since then, you kind of threw out the bat signal and asked for depth scoring from the Dallas Stars, and 11 different players have hit the scoreboard since that time in the last 2 games for the Dallas Stars. That doesn't even include Tyler Seguin on that list. So, and that's, add Mikko Rantanen, he's the 12th. I'm saying 11 players other than Mikko Rantanen have lit up the score sheet. And 2 of them have just checked into the series. So Robertson, he's just getting rolling. He's gotten better with every single game here. Miro Heiskanen, you could see him getting better as that game went on.
And what a pass, right? What a head fake for the hat trick goal.
Well,
Ridiculous.
There you go.
Ridiculous.
To go back, I never really got through it. So Helly is going to want that first goal back. The second goal for Hellebuyck, he got beat. He's supposed to take the guy. It's his job to stop that. He doesn't. So, he's got to own that. That said, that's a high danger scoring chance. And if was it Scott Arneal or someone had said, if you give scoring players a lot of time and space, they're going to score. They're going to pick their spot. I'm not taking anything off of Connor Hellebuyck. Hey, Kyle Connor got down the ice on a breakaway, had a good scoring chance. Jake Oettinger stopped him. He also stopped him point blank in front of the net. Jake Oettinger made the stops tonight. Connor Hellebuyck didn't. I don't hold Connor Hellebuyck responsible for that last goal. The puck goes off the bar. He gets beat. The puck bounces back out. It's one of those things where everyone is looking one way. Everyone's following the puck. The thing about that Granlund goal, Connor Hellebuyck, try and think to yourself, is there any point this season that Connor Hellebuyck has had to make that save on the power play? That pass doesn't usually get across. The Jets usually defend that better. Sometimes you have to, this isn't me blaming the Jets players in front of them. This isn't me blaming Connor Hellebuyck. It's also me not excusing Connor Hellebuyck, and it's me not excusing the Jets players in front of him. Sometimes, though, you just got to tip your cap at great players pulling off great plays, just like Josh Morrissey last game pulled off a great play, and it's in the back of the net. It's a very similar goal if you think about it. Great players are deceptive, and they make everyone on the ice think you're doing one thing, and then when you move the puck into the other direction, like it goes to Mikael Granlund, no one is expecting it, and boom, it's in the back of the net. I just wanted to finish off the original question to you was with the line blending, so I want to circle back to that. What he's trying to do in this situation, he is trying to he's trying to generate offense on 3 different lines, right? So he gets Iafallo, takes him off the 4th line, throws him up there. They've had success. They've been good offensively. It makes them better defensively. But I think what he's thinking there is I can free up Gabe Vilardi to help elsewhere and still get point production out of that line. Then you're going to go to Lowry and Vilardi and Ehlers. Ehlers has worked with Vilardi in the past. I thought Ehlers was the Jets' best player tonight. And that's not just because he scored that one goal.
No,
we
agreed.
know that Ehlers works with Lowry. They're direct players. And then now you're trying to open up and make your 3rd line, basically that 3rd scoring line with, the 2 pairing of Nemesnikov and Cole Perfetti. And then you throw Nino Niederreiter in there, who's going to try and maybe bring a little bit of a different element, get to the front of the net, do all those kind of things. I like the idea of it. I just think that, okay, the one thing that I find is fascinating about the Dallas Stars, they have so much depth that you can basically just put their names on a piece of paper and draw them out of a hat, and there you go. There's our lines. We're going to go with those tonight. And they do that quite often, and they mix things up. The Jets' strength all season, and, this is, I'm not surprised, one bit surprised Blake Wheeler had campaigned against this happening or didn't like it happening, because Blake Wheeler was the guy who didn't even want to take a line rush with someone different. Blake Wheeler was the guy who would not do 2-on-1 drills in practice with anyone but Mark Scheifele. You didn't get to go on a 2-on-1 with him if your name wasn't Mark Scheifele. He liked the consistency of it. And the thing about this is, hey, we always talk about that top pairing, that top trio as being the highest scoring top trio in the NHL this year. What that means is when they're on the ice with each other and scoring, no one scored more than that trio. But that's one of those juiced stats because so many other top players get moved around and play with so many different players to give you those options. I like the idea of this. I know there's a whole bunch of people out there who've been asking for line changes for a long time and they want to see different things. And yes, if you're going throughout the season, you're doing that and you're sticking with lines like these, Ken, tonight, and you're sticking with those lines and you're going with those lines for 10 games or something before you switch things up and they become stale, that's a different thing. This is a team that has got where it's got because of its ridiculous consistency. They do not change things up. They usually, if they do it in game because they're trying to spark something or trying to send a message. But I do have to say, on a night where they generated a lot, this is great, but didn't score a lot, you should expect that your changes generate, but don't finish in the back of the net because it takes some time to completely and fully gel. So the idea of the line may work and it may work in execution, but it takes the ultimate execution to put the puck in the back of the net. And I think this is one of these scenarios where the Jets went to a trick, surprised a lot of people, probably surprised the Dallas Stars. It probably helped them out of the gate, but in the end, the hardest thing to do in the NHL is score. And I think it gets harder to score when you've got a whole bunch of different people playing on different lines for the first time.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's totally fair, but this is why we talk about trying to test things out during the year when sometimes you say, well, don't do it for the sake of doing it. Well, no, you try it during the year because you may need it down the road if someone's not going. I mean, one thing that, again, I'm not here to be critical of Blake, but the problem with Blake saying that they should just put that line back together is that Blake doesn't consider the context. He looked at the season numbers. I applaud him doing his homework.
Wow,
but what Blake hadn't seen was that Vilardi had 1 goal in his last 14 games before he was hurt. So yes, he had 8 assists during that time. So he was still productive. But Gabe's goal scoring had dried up already in February and March, not just in May now, when he's trying to come back from a very difficult injury. So, I mean, that's also part of it. I mean, in talking to Gabe Vilardi during the series, he's feeling better, but it's hard to get put into a series that has been going 100 miles an hour when you are on the bicycle and the rest of the players are on the Indy track that Scott O'Neill was talking about. Gabe is generating some, but he's not lit up. He's not doing all of the things he was doing when he was at peak Gabe Vilardi, trending to 35 goals. And it's impossible to be expecting him to be that. So when that's not happening, you have to look for other solutions. And again, I've seen Velarde with Lowry at times and I've liked it. I've seen Ehlers at times with Lowry and liked it, so that they tried them together. I like that idea. Anyways, it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do, and I expect they'll stay with something similar. And you can always go back to Velarde if Velarde's feeling it and rolling. Then you can go back to him on home ice when you have the matchup game rolling. And if you want to just put the identity line back together, or if you want to use Iafallo there because today Appleton was down on the fourth line, that's also fine too. I mean, however way they decide. We've talked about this for years, Sean. Iafallo played with Kopitar because he can do that job of going up against Rantanen and Hintz. So, yeah, I mean, I understand everything that was behind those decisions, and it was a smart move to do. And, sometimes it doesn't immediately generate 5 goals, but, maybe they laid the groundwork with the 72 shot attempts here. But, I mean, ultimately there needs to be better finish. I mean, that's just the way it goes. It doesn't matter if it's 5-on-5, power play time, or shorthanded, like where the Kyle Connor break came. I mean, when you generate enough, you need to score. And if you don't score, it's hard to win. So right now, the Jets, all year long, they scored enough. They scored enough. They defended well enough. But right now, they're not doing enough of either one of those things. And that is why they are trailing 3-1 in this series. Could they be tied 2-2? Of course they could. But that's not the situation they find themselves in. This is the biggest test to their resolve they have had all year. They've had other tests and passed with flying colors. Now it's up to them to play their best game of the year. Their urgency level must be there, but the difference between urgency and desperation is simple. Desperation, sometimes you do desperate measures or desperate things. With urgency, you just crank up your intensity and stick to your plan and your structure. That is what the Jets need to do. They don't need to overhaul their structure. They need to stick to what made them successful. That means buckling down in the defensive zone, protecting the puck better, puck management, better coverage, all of those things. But they also have to get their forecheck going a little bit better. There were times today where it was there, but when they're at their best, they are driving other teams crazy with their ability to churn. Sean, where were the churning shifts today? Even though they generated 72 shot attempts, did you see enough of them in the building?
Oh no. No, they were capitalizing. Like, that's the one thing I think is maybe a little bit fool's gold with this. Like I'd said,
right.
The Dallas Stars kind of fumbled through the beginning of that game. They just kept missing pucks, missing passes, falling down. And I don't think, sometimes you look and you say, what happened tonight to that team? The Jets forced them into that. I didn't feel like the Jets forced them into that. I feel like the Jets were taking advantage of a team that just was not quite on top of its game. And it didn't necessarily work out. All that said, I think based on what we heard from Scott Arniel, is the idea that he liked what happened in that game, that I think he just wants to keep going with it. Like, it wasn't one of these things where we got to do this, we got to do that. I think Scott Arniel's message to his team was mostly, guys, this game did kind of work. We just didn't finish. So I get the feeling that they're going to kind of keep rolling with this. And I guess we are going to see potentially, if they keep those lines together, which I think there's a good chance they will, whether it's going to pay off for the Winnipeg Jets and allow them to stay in the second round a little bit longer after game 5. And if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, give Sweet Lou a shout out before we get to the awards.
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of this community, including our podcast.
Sorry, I just want to bring this up. Baby Yoda says the Oilers put in Pickard to replace Skinner. Why can't the Jets do the same with Helly? I'm just going to say this. I was on here, and I thought I was maybe the person in the market screaming loudest that they should be putting Comrie in. there's a time to do these things, right? Like that's after 2 games, you go down 2 games, the beginning of the playoffs, your goaltender has clearly not played well for you. So you move in and you go with the other guy. But what you're doing is you're doing it after game 2 so that if Pickard goes in and things don't go well, you can go back to your starting goalie after that. You can't be pulling this move off at the very end, because what it does is it creates all kinds of problems for you and for your starting goaltender. Like if they go with Eric Comrie in their next game and Eric Comrie doesn't do well, then everyone eviscerates Scott Arniel because he put that goaltender in there. And everyone says, oh, remember that year that Scott Arniel started in the year that Connor Hellebuyck won the Hart Trophy, and they didn't start their Hart Trophy winner in an elimination game. Like, by this point, it's too late. This is why before I'd said there's a time to do this, and I had thought that there was a time to do it this year. Maybe if you wanted to earlier in this series, although I don't think Connor Hellebuyck has been playing as poorly in this series as he did the last series, but they should have done it in that series. I'm on record. You can go back and look and see it. You can go back and look and see it. I was on record saying it the year before that. They should have done it the year before that. I believe I was on record saying, actually, no, I wasn't saying it the year before that, just because I didn't have, regardless, I'm not going to get into all that, but you can do this, but there's a time and a place to do it. And right now, I don't think you can look at that game to the point that everyone here is making. You score 1 goal. How many games do you win 1-0, right? If you're a goaltender and that's your bar, you have to win the game 1-0, then you're in trouble. The whole team is playing that. There's too much here to point to Connor Hellebuyck and say, this is on you, so we're pulling this guy out. And then if you do that and you send your team into the offseason losing faith in your starting goaltender, your Hart Trophy candidate, you're the player who's going to be a 2-time Vezina Trophy winner, it's just it's almost a no-win situation, and so it's different than them pulling Skinner because there's time for Pickard to get his feet underneath him. But there's, Pickard isn't like it's do or die. But there's also time that if Pickard does not work out, you can go back to Skinner. That time has passed for the Winnipeg Jets. If they were going to take this kind of action, they needed to do it in the 3rd round, and they probably needed to do it in game 4 or 5 of that series. Ken, Johnston Group, Kenny and Renny OG's got you covered. Play of the game. What do you got?
Oh man, thought I had one here. Honestly, I think. Sorry, did you have? I had something written down to you that I thought I sent you, but do you have one on at the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I guess there was. Wasn't there a Stars player who?
Oh, sorry, I've got it. Yes,
yeah.
I sent it to you. Sorry, on the in the second period. Josh Morrissey box out on Rantanen.
Oh, yeah.
And then Dylan DeMello comes in and sweeps the puck out of harm's way. Again, another really good play by Morrissey that, it doesn't show up on the score sheet necessarily, but that's 2 box outs that have saved 2 goals for the Winnipeg Jets. Josh playing incredibly hard defensively, Sean. Almost 25 minutes of ice time again today. And hey, it's a hard job, and he was out there against Rantanen a lot. But another thing is true, Sean, and what I sent you during the game, we're not seeing vintage Morrissey on the offensive side joining the rush. And I think that in order for the Jets to keep their season alive, they are going to need a signature Morrissey moment. We saw one. We saw one in game 3 with the pass for sure. I just think that they're going to need another one if they want to win the series. I'm not saying it's not all on him, and that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm saying the Jets generate, when their offense is struggling, the second wave for them, which is generally Pionk and Morrissey, has to be more involved in the offense in this series. That's another area that it has not been at the same level as it was against the Blues, with the exception of the incredible play, the dance at the blue line around Colin Blackwell to Nino Niederreiter. There have not been, through 4 games, there haven't been enough of those. And I know that Morrissey didn't play game 1, so it's not all on Morrissey, but the combination of Pionk and Morrissey is going to need to chip in a little bit more offense. And if it's not them, then maybe it's a Samberg or DeMello. as well.
I know you're not saying it's all on Josh Morrissey. I understand that you're saying that. I guess what I'm seeing is that there's certain ways that the Winnipeg Jets succeeded in the regular season that you're just not going to get that. Josh Morrissey is not going to get that wide open, rush the puck down the ice action that he got during the regular season that led to so much generation in the regular season, right? And we saw that with the Blues. When he got the puck, they were making sure to punish him every single time he got the puck. And there's just not the room for that. You're going to have room against teams like, I don't know, like the Nashville Predators. You're going to get that room against teams like, the St. Louis Blues at the beginning of the year, the Seattle Kraken, and so on and so forth. You don't get that. And for the most part, you could see with even a player like Cale Makar, he got that against the Jets last year, but he didn't get that against the Dallas Stars last year, and he didn't get that against Dallas Stars this year. And we with Quinn Hughes in the playoffs last year with the Canucks. That's that asking for that from Josh Morrissey, I think, is asking for him to provide something that is just not capable of happening. I think he's affecting the series the way he can. That goal that he sets up in his last game is exactly that. We need to get out of our heads the idea that the Winnipeg Jets look like that team that skates freely up and down the ice from their back end and gets in and churns the entire time. That's the issue, is the style of play that makes the Jets so dominant in the regular season. You don't get to do that to teams in the playoffs. And because of that, the Jets are finding it difficult to find other ways to generate and to score. They were able to pull it out just in time in the St. Louis Blues series. And it took like Herculean efforts from guys like Nemesnikov. That's the kind of thing you need to look for, is guys chipping up, driving hard to that, making something happen. Asking Josh Morrissey to do what he did in the regular season, that's not available, and neither is churning your opposition for 60 minutes because everyone in the playoffs is too good and their coaches are too good at game planning to stop that from happening. You have to find other ways to score. But regardless, I agree with you on the Johnston Group. We've got you covered. Play of the game brought to you by the Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnston Group. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Ken, you have a keg save of the game?
Yeah, it's got to be Oettinger on Kyle Connor with a shorthanded chance. I mean, the Jets were, it was still, the game was right there for them. Kyle Connor gets a breakaway while shorthanded during the double minor to Fleury. Kyle makes a good move, and yes, he is slashed, but still the ability to Oettinger to get that left pad save and kick that out. That is my keg save of the game. Hellebuyck had a couple of really good tip redirect saves. But again, just given the circumstances and the fact that, the Stars scored on the ensuing power play, it just was one of those situations where it was doubly critical in the game, and one of those timely saves, that is my choice in this situation.
Yeah, that has a potential to be an entirely different game if he doesn't make that save. So
Series
that
saver,
is the keg save of the game for both Ken and I, but it doesn't matter what we think. If you share with us what you think, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate, usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations there in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our winner, who's Don Dawson. Don, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate, usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations there in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And that brings us to the TCB lamplighter. Ken, what do you got?
It's got to be the 2-on-1 Granlund goal for me. Again, kudos to Ehlers for finding a seam between the pads by selling and you asked him directly, Sean, and Ehlers did say, yes, he was primarily looking for Scheifele on the back door, but he froze Oettinger with his eyes, and his ability to wrist that shot through the pads and knock it in off the inside pad was high level stuff.
Yeah.
But to me, the Granlund goal and the 2-on-1 is just absolutely beautiful. It's bar down perfection, and I had a couple people say, "Oh, he's got to have that." I'm sorry. Again, the way that watch the replay, Granlund's ability to change the angle and he almost overdid it, Sean, with the way that like his top hand came off his stick, which is ridiculous. Like it's not something you see all the time. It's like when Rory has this crazy swing on a drive, the mechanics are sound, but his hand comes off the club one hand. That's what Granlund did with that wrist shot, selling pass, and then absolutely turning the blade right over and going bar down. To me, yeah, his one timer is impressive, but to me, the game winner is the goal that I'm going with as the lamplighter.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is when he had opportunities, he took advantage of them, right? And that's the most difficult thing to do in the playoffs. We always look at those missed opportunities. Mikael Granlund took advantage of every opportunity that he had in this game here, as he did when he set up Thomas Harley in game 3 of this series with just an absolute bonkers play. He's elevating. He's coming to play. I once had an NHL head coach tell me that Mikael Granlund so often can be the very best player in a game, and he's had a hard time kind of getting to that consistency. We've seen the high end of what Mikael Granlund is capable of in this series, and that's why we are giving him the TCB Lamplighter of the game. But we need you to share with us your TCB Lamplighter. Do so, and you are automatically entered to win a Frosty Delicious 15-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. A Lamplighter hoodie, as well as a free pizza, a coupon for a free pizza down there at 11290 Kenniston Avenue, where you can join them in their tap room. It's also where we are going to be having the Kenny and Renny year ender. And like I said, the room is filling up fast. There's a number of people outside who are waiting to pounce on that. We are holding as much of the room as we can for the people, the listeners from the podcast who want to get there, meet with each other, meet with Kenny and Renny, meet with some of the other folks from the media in Winnipeg. So if you want a spot in that room, the best way to lock it down is to get a hold of me. You can direct message me here, or some people have my text, some people have emails and stuff like that. Get in so that you've got a spot locked down. Like I said, we don't have the specific date yet. And if the date doesn't work for you, we're not going to hold you to anything. But if you want in, you need to send me your information and let me know you want to be in there. Set aside the tickets for that. We also want to hand out the winner of the TCB Lamplighter, or the entrant for the big TCB Lamplighter prize at the end of this series that we will hand out. And that is Alex K7392. Alex K7392. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your name, send me an email, and you will be entered to win the big TCB prize pack at the end of this round. Ken, anything to say before we go?
No, just quickly, I know there was some debate about the Hayden Fleury play. I got a few messages on it, and here's the reason why it was still a penalty. If he had maintained control of the puck he kind of overskates it slightly. The puck rolls off his stick, and as he sweeps to try to get it back, that is when the stick rode up and caught Rope Hintz in the mouth. I understand why Fleury was frustrated. I think in real time it was tough to tell, but when they slowed it down and showed the replay, he lost control of the puck, and that is exactly what Scott O'Neill said at the podium. I thought he handled it incredibly well, and for the Jets fans who thought the Jets got jobbed, that's why the call was made, and it was the correct call, as Scott O'Neill also pointed out at the podium.
Yeah, the puck is actually, he whacks the stick, but Rope Hintz has the puck on his stick. What it looks like in real time is that Hayden Fleury plays the puck with his stick into the slot area, but what he actually does is he plays backwards, slaps the blade of Rope Hintz, which then knocks the puck off Rope Hintz's stick, and then rides up and hits him in the mouth. Like you said, Scott O'Neill had said it's the right call. That's the way the cookie crumbles, and that's the way it crumbled in that game. Okay, time for us to get out of here. I got to catch an early flight and make it back to Winnipeg for tomorrow. So thank you, though, all of you, for staying up as late as you have with us. We do very much appreciate you being along for the ride. And we hope you appreciate the conversation happening in this space. And if you do, we hope you appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. And for us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, the Johnston Group, TCB, TransCanada Brewing Company, and of course the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. Let's reconvene and do this after Game 5, where the Jets could be heading back to Dallas, or we could be doing a little bit of a post-mortem. Let's see what happens then, folks. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.